My mic's been off the whole time. Oh, I muted it after I did my. Oh man, that is hilarious. Which is funny because I've had like 3 people watching this, and not one of them is like, "Yo, bro, I can't hear you. Can you hear? Can you hear me now? Am I coming through?" Oh, okay. See, there's a button on here, and I mute it when I'm not using the mic, and I muted it right after I did my recording videos. And I've had 3 people. I just sit here, shit you not. I don't know when you came in, Jack. I literally been talking for 20, 30 minutes, and not a single person that was in here was like, yo, bro, your mic's off. I just totally talked. It's a good thing I can edit this live video when I'm done. I can be like, all right, this whole section of this video is completely pointless. So we're going to cut that out when, it's done recording and uploading. Oh, man. Oh, man. I said a lot of stuff about Tears of the Kingdom. Then I start talking about Dead Island 2. Oh. Oh, that is just, I didn't even know. I did not even know that. That's what I get for not being prepared, because I was late starting this stream. And that's because I downloaded OBS and I was like, oh, maybe I'll do some screen recordings. Maybe we can, search the internet for articles and talk about them. And so I was trying to set that up, but I was getting it mostly. Oh yeah, my shirt. Yeah. Never pay full price for late pizza. So I guess I'm gonna have to start over now with everything that I was talking about. Okay, so all right, so here's my thoughts. And I guess if you've hung out here and you've already heard, well, technically you wouldn't have heard me. You would have just seen me sitting here flapping my lip, be like, what is he talking about? Anyway, let's get to what I originally started talking about when 3 people showed up, but apparently they didn't want to tell me that the mic wasn't working. It still cracks me up. Okay, so here's some mid thoughts on Tears of the Kingdom. So my biggest issue with Tears of the Kingdom, I feel that the game is too big. Like, I've actually kind of sat there a few times and just stopped playing because I'm like, dude, there's way too much to do in this game. Like, and some of the stuff I have found out from watching someone else's video, like they have these they're called roots. They're light roots that are in the depths underground below the main map of Hyrule. And they are connected to a shrine. Right above this root is a shrine on the upper floor, the main map that you can walk around on. And so you can find shrines, and if you use that map, you can locate these light roots that are in the depths, and vice versa. If you find light roots, but you haven't found the shrine, then you can use that map to locate where the shrine is. But at the end of the day, the shrines are somewhat still a shrine from Breath of the Wild. The only difference, and this is one thing I think makes them a little better, is that you can actually complete a shrine not the way that the developers intended. Like, you could go into a shrine, see the puzzle, and be like, oh, okay, I see what they want me to do, but fuck how they want me to do it. I'm going to do my own way. I was in a shrine, spent way too much time in there, like 30 minutes, because I wanted to do it my way rather than the way I felt that some games being bigger doesn't work and a smaller scale game would be better. Yes, I totally agree. Like, if you look at Dead Island 2, some people, not everybody, had complained that it's not open world. And it's like, why would you want that to be on such a large scale? Because at the end of the day, there just isn't going to be a lot to do. I'm all for open world games. But another thing that I think is the problem with open world is everyone tries to go bigger maps. And it's like, I don't think we need a bigger map. You can just as easily create a map that is big as Red Dead Redemption. All right. Not number 2, but the first one. And people will be fine with it. Especially when you think about like the hardware that is in use currently. You could make a smaller map a little bit more detailed, as opposed to trying to make a larger map more detailed. So yeah, totally true. And then, okay, so getting back to the shrines. So you can actually complete them in any way you want. Now, the way is that there were 3 tracks that met to a single track, and this track went up and around and then shot all the way to the end where you're supposed to go. Now, what you're supposed to do is create a platform with a top and 3 things sticking out on the bottom so it rides the track. And you set it on top of one of these 3 tracks, and if you do it right, it'll slide right into this singular track and go up all the way. The first time I did this shrine, I was in there 30 minutes because I was like, screw doing it their way. I'm going to do it the most ridiculous way that is possible. 20, 30 minutes later, I was like, this took way too much time. I took all the platforms that they had available and I extended them out and then put them on top of the tracks to reach this individual track that went all by itself. I then walked on this platform with a different platform that I stuck on the track and rode it that way. And I was like, that was way, that was like a 20-minute waste of my time, but I have no idea. It was just, I think we all do stupid shit in games. Like there are times, this is another problem with this game, is that I find myself, because there's so much to do in it, I'm not really doing the story. And overall, the story is pretty mundane and basic. And it's not a big caveat to the game. And I think that's why they tell the story in the way that they do, is that it's through memories. But I will say that Tears of the Kingdom story is way better than the Breath of the Wild story, in my opinion. So, yeah. And, it still has temples that you have to go to. The temples are pretty much the same. They're from each different region. You go there, you do the temple. It plays out the same way as in Breath of the Wild. You have to go to a control pad, unlock something, interact with a control pad, and then you fight a boss. Okay? I will say the one caveat to this is that all of the bosses you fight, they eventually appear in the depths so you can refight them. And you even have the ability to take a picture of them in the depths when you come across them. So there's that as well. Let's see. I think that's all I really need to say about Breath of the Wild. It's an entertaining game. I think the scope is too big. It does have some repetitive stuff from Breath of the Wild. And overall, I think the story is more entertaining. But I think the way that they tell the story through memories is, well, it's not very copacetic. It's kind of mundane, if you ask me. And when it comes to RPGs, I'm more of a story kind of guy. And granted, don't get me wrong, I'm aware that just about every RPG out there has a pretty mundane, weak story. And there's only a few of them. Oh, favorite? Let's see. That's The Legend of Dragoon. That's actually the first RPG game that I played. Because something you have to understand about me is back in the day, I thought RPG games were fucking dumb. I was like, they are so fucking dumb. I was all, ooh, select the word attack and watch the character do something. Ooh, ah. That was my literal opinion on JR and RPGs. Boring as shit. And then one day, thanks to a friend, all right, mind you, I went and spent the night at a friend's house for 2 weeks. And this is like the PlayStation 2 hadn't even come out yet, okay? But I think it had been announced, but it hadn't come out yet. And we played Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories. So my friend introduced me to Yu-Gi-Oh!, which I then found out was an anime. So I started watching the anime. I also started collecting the card games. Fun fact about me doing this is that I still did it in my 20s and my late 20s to like 28. I was 25 when I entered my first Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament locally, and I got my ass whooped by an 8-year-old. Now I don't collect the cards anymore. I just find it kind of a waste of money. And at one point I was like, well, I'm going to collect the cards, but I'm not going to do any tournaments or play with anyone except maybe my sister, because she enjoys Yu-Gi-Oh! But even then I stopped doing that because I was like, it's kind of a waste of money within of itself. But anyway, back to what we were saying. So we're playing Forbidden Memories. And then he would also play a game called The Legend of Dragoon, which, of course, my only criticism of that is thanks for a friend for playing a single player game when you have a friend over. I think we've all experienced that at some point. And I sat there and I watched him play this game. And the one thing that I thought was different about it is it kind of had like this combo system. You had to press a button at the correct time, and your character would continue to do an attack on the enemy. So he actually ended up falling asleep. And when he got done, I took that game out and I played Forbidden Memories. And then I kind of sat there when I was done. It was like 3 a.m. I turned around to see if he wanted to play. He was passed out on the floor, sleeping in the living room. So I'm like, okay. So then I grabbed the Legend of Dragoon. I put it in and I start playing it. And from there, the RPG genre has been my favorite genre. Okay. Oh, and the least favorite RPG. That's a hard one because there is one. It came out on the PlayStation 2. It was an isometric view. I don't remember the name of it. I bought it on a whim, and I was like, I don't like this game. And I don't like it. I didn't like it because of the isometric view. Not so much because it was isometric. I just felt that that particular game kind of didn't do it correctly. Like the camera view, and yeah, it was odd. It was weird. I can't tell you the name of it because that's how unimportant the game is to me, to where I didn't even remember the game itself. And then outside of that, you know, like games I grew up with, I kind of did that, but with an anime. I was actually introduced to anime from my father. Fun fact. All right. Growing up, we really didn't watch a lot of anime. Like my childhood, because my mom controlled the TV when we were at home. Oh God, fucking soap operas. I hate soap operas so much thanks to my mom. Oh yeah. I hated rainy days. Oh, I hated rainy days because it means my mom would not let us go outside, and she wouldn't let us play in our room or hang out in our room because we might mess it up. And oh man, I've watched General Hospital, Days of Our Lives. Oh, most boring childhood ever. Oh my God, I hate soap operas. But anyway, my dad started to watch. Oh wait, no, actually my mom started to watch an anime. She started to watch Sailor Moon. I have no idea why. She started to watch Sailor Moon. So that was my first introduction to anime. Then my dad started to watch Dragon Ball Z, and this was like an everyday thing, set scheduled. It was gonna come on. I want to say 4:30 or 5, and my dad got off work at 4 or 4:30, depending on when it would come in. So he would come home, and my mom would know that he's watching Dragon Ball Z. So we all of us kids looked forward to it because it was something that we found entertaining. And like it came to the point that even if our dad did not come home, like he had to work late, our mom would actually watch Dragon Ball Z as well. Way better than soap operas. Oh, so that was my first introduction to anime, Sailor Moon, and then Dragon Ball Z. Ironically, thanks to my parents, who ironically did not watch a lot of anime. Like I can get my dad to watch anime series that he's never seen before. My mom will not do it. She says she doesn't like it anymore. Like even Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon, she says she doesn't like it. I say she's just getting old, but that's just my thoughts and opinions on that. Because there's a lot of food that she used to eat that she, I don't know, she doesn't like anymore. It's weird. But yeah, that was my introduction to anime. And then I started watching anime on my own. Some of the basics: Bleach, Naruto, One Piece. I stopped watching a lot of these live because I hate fillers. I hate fillers. In fact, I own the entire series of Naruto, not Shippuden, but I own the original. And every time a filler episode comes on, I skip it. That's the beauty of owning it, or even streaming it, is I can skip what I know to be the filler garbage episodes. It's like, I don't need a flashback of the last 20 fucking episodes. What were the fucking writers thinking? That's the worst part about anime, is filler episodes. And you see filler episodes in Western media as well. Don't get me wrong. Like I watched Fringe back in the day, Grimm, And there's definitely filler episodes. There's even filler episodes in older shit like my mom used to watch, like MASH. I love MASH. I grew up watching it. There are a few things I will give my parents that they watch that I enjoy watching. My mom watched Full House, MASH. Let's see, Who's the Boss? These are, I don't know if how many people are gonna know what shows I'm talking about. All right. And then we also have Chips. All right, that's another show back in the day. Obviously, Star Trek, and then Star Trek Generation, but that was from my dad, not my mom. Happy Days. Oh yeah, I Dream of Jeannie, Bewitched. I could say Little House on the Prairie and the Waltons. Those were the only two that because my mom watched them so much, she would watch rerun after rerun after rerun after rerun. I'm like, fuck the Waltons and fuck Little House on the Prairie. I'm like, there's a fine line between taking a break and then binge watching something, which I've done, but to watch reruns every fucking day, I'm like, oh my God. Even I can't do that. And I know that in some of, like, I'd say this in my new introductions that I'm a writer and I go over controversies in other arts, and that's because that's something I wanted to do, because I have an opinion on, like, say for example, Disney with their live action films. All right. And my thoughts on that concept real quickly is it's a failure of diversity because it's fake diversity. If you look at one of the they're not Star Trek, Star Wars films, the one with what's his name, David, I think it's David Boyega. He's a black individual, all right, black American. At least I think he's American. I don't know. Some actors do come, they originate and they were born in another country. But anyway, that's not the point. The point being is that if you remember the first, I think it was like the first Star Wars movie that they did. I don't remember the name of it, but they put David Boyega all over the advertising. He was front center. Hey, look, we're diverse. We have a black man as a main character, which ironically, then the movie comes out, he's totally not the main character. And I was actually excited for that because I was like, dude, a stormtrooper becomes a Jedi? That's a badass idea. Totally not what it ended up being. I disappointed myself with that one. Okay. I'll admit that. But when they decided to do the Chinese poster, guess where they put Boyega? They put his ass in the back of the bus. That's where they put him. He was a little tiny speck on the fucking the poster. And relating that to what we see Disney doing today, where like Ariel, black character, apparently there's little girls in the Lost Boys, and they're also a mixed diversity of male and female characters. That's total fake diversity from Disney, because they're doing it for profit and not because they really want to do it. And the one thing that I've told people when it comes to this diversity in these films is that diversity is supposed to be about original content, not handing out sloppy seconds. Because there's actually one of the animated films of Disney has a black mermaid in it. That was a great opportunity to do a live action film telling a similar story of Ariel, but with that character, creating a new princess as well. Because if you look at their cast of diverse princesses, it's not very big. They're mostly white. So I can see the argument people have of, hey, we need more representation. I think the failure of that representation comes in context when people try to, instead of create original stuff, they just kind of want to hand out sloppy seconds to people. Anyway, that's not to mention, what is it? Wendy in the live Peter Pan film is fighting a grown ass adult man with a sword. Get the fuck out of here. That is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. Like, I'm a guy from the modern day time, but if I was somehow transported into the past, I don't think I could hold my own against a real pirate with a sword. And yes, they were a thing, but they weren't what you think they are in most movies. So they're usually during times of war. Because I'm a writer, I'm supposed to research this kind of stuff. They're supposed to be like during times of war, each individual, group that was at war would basically have their own pirates, and they would give them the permission to pirate their enemies' ships as long as they did not do it to their ships. And that's where originally pirates actually came from, was during times of war. Very true. I don't remember who it was, but some dictator or movie maker said nobody cared about original, diverse characters. Very ignorant of what he said. I'm going to mute the mic for a second. All right. I'm back. I had to mute it because a roommate came in. Apparently, I got to go get hot dog and hamburger buns. Oh, yeah, I watched The Walking Dead. Did not watch Fear of the Walking Dead because... Okay, so I stopped watching The Walking Dead roughly around when the governor showed up. And that the reason why is because I felt they were just telling the same story. Hey, guess what? In bad times, people are pretty fucked up. And it's like, well, yeah, that's a commonplace. Times of war, natural disasters, people are always fucked up. They will always be fucked up. And when I say times of war, you usually have soldiers that do some pretty, vile and unmoral things, usually to females from the other side. Okay. So that's no secret. It's a known fact that people are messed up during times of war and natural disasters. And why The Walking Dead wanted to tell that same story, which is also apparently in the comic books, is rather cliche, because that's like that's almost every zombie movie out there. All right. And I didn't even spend my time with Fear the Walking Dead. In fact, they announced another spinoff, which, I forget the character's name. There's two characters. One of them is the badass. Oh man, I wish I knew. He was in what the fuck is? See, now I can't remember that goddamn game. The Delivery Game. All right, I forget the name of it. The Delivery Game, where everyone said you're like a walking UPS. The Death Stranding, I believe it was. All right, the actor that plays in that. All right, him and another character are apparently going to be doing another spinoff show. Oh no, not him. Actually, no, I think he is doing one. But the governor and one of the daughters from the farm, the only one that's alive, they're doing a spinoff. That's what it is. I have no interest in that because, I'm actually working on my own zombie story. And the irony from this, they kept doing the same thing all the time. Frank DeBorn was the mind behind season 1 and 2. I think when AMC fired him, it ruined the show. Yeah, Negan and Maggie. Yeah. But I will say one thing. When I was watching it and I was like, Glenn was there. In fact, I actually stopped watching it when they killed Glenn. Because I don't know. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with how they killed him. Good shock value as a writer. I understand it. I get it. But then it was at that point where I was like, this is just the same shit, different toilet. I have no interest in it. And anyway, so when I was working on my own zombie apocalypse story, this was like years ago. I came across this website called crack.com. It had 2 articles, how the zombie apocalypse would be successful in the real world, and the reverse to that, how it wouldn't be successful. As a writer, I sat there and I thought, well, how could it be successful? Like, if we were to take the zombie apocalypse and be like, well, how could it be successful in a world that is familiar with what zombie lore is? All right. And I sat there and I thought, well, what if it wasn't even the zombie apocalypse? What if it started as a pandemic? Because if you look at most zombie movies, they're a virus. All right. Whether that is something natural or man-made, it's a virus. What do viruses do? They mutate. That's what they do. There's a reason why there isn't a cure for the common cold, because it's constantly mutating into a different version of itself. So I sat there and thought, what if we just had a random plague and it mutated into the zombie apocalypse. Because the plague has already destroyed a good majority of the government and killed most of the people, and nobody would be prepared for a zombie apocalypse in that sense, where the virus mutates, and now we have the zombie apocalypse. Yeah, it's called An Undead Tale, the first. The series is called An Undead Tale, and there's a reason why I chose to go with undead. And that's because I looked at a lot of aspects within the zombies. So, for example, zombies that are basically dead. All right. So, objectively, they would not be able to walk around because of rigor mortis, the heart not working. They wouldn't even be able to make any kind of noise, as opposed to like what we see in The Walking Dead, because their lungs aren't working. You verbally cannot really speak without your lungs. You breathe as you do it. It's a thing. You can't really make sound without it. So if you lose these, other than the fact that you're dead, you're silent. All right. So I wanted to use that to my advantage. So I sat there and I thought, okay, so obviously I'm going to still call them zombies, even though there's going to be people that disagree with that, because they're more like a vampire. They're undead. They're not dead. I use the word that they are dead because the individual that was there is no longer there. And the virus, which I did some research on, some viruses are considered a parasite. So I was like, all right. Now, there isn't any known parasites that can control the human body, but I was like, in the realm of real science, we just don't know if such a thing could exist. So I'm playing on that aspect. The virus mutates because it is also intelligent to a certain degree. All right. It wants to live. It wants to survive. And it realizes it's just killing its host. So it actually begins to mutate certain parts of the human body. So one example of this is I have glands in the human mouth, because objectively, biting is the worst way to spread a disease. In fact, objectively, from the real world we live in, if you were bit by a zombie from The Walking Dead or any other, objectively, you would not turn into a zombie, even if they broke the skin, because the amount of the virus in their saliva would be minuscule. It would be like someone with HIV biting you and tearing your flesh off. You're not going to get HIV from them unless they had like an open wound in their mouth with blood, because then it would mix in, obviously. All right. The same concept with, the zombies, unless they had some kind of open wound in their mouth and they bit you, tore the flesh, causing you to bleed, you would not get infected. So I then looked to the animal kingdom. because the Komodo dragon, other than being a big ass fucking lizard you would not want to run into, its bite is full of bacteria. So if you survive an attack, there's a high potential that you can get infected with all the bacteria that's in their mouth. So I used that part of science to say that, okay, what if the zombies actually had glands in their mouth, and which means there's a concentrated virus in their saliva. So when they bit and tore the flesh of someone, if they escaped, then yes, scientifically, they would become infected with it, because there's a higher concentration in the actual saliva itself. And that's what the reason why there's a higher concentration, at least in the zombies I've created, is because the zombies I've created will not just simply attack you to eat you. They're not your normal mindless zombies. All right. They have somewhat of a purpose, similar to like a pack of wolves. They will actually gather in packs, but they're also territorial. They could be attacking you simply because, hey, get the fuck off my turf, bro. And they will attack other zombies in the same manner. You're not part of our group. Go away. And just like wolves, there's also the lone wolf. All right. The lone zombie that's not part of a pack. All right. So there's that. And other than that, other than eating and being territorial, they will also purposely infect you. That's what the glands in their mouth are for. They come up, they open their mouth, and muscles actually push the glands to spray a mist of the actual virus in your face. And that is another caveat. If you are sprayed in the face, you breathe it in. If your eyes are open, it'll enter that way. So holding your breath doesn't really help. All right. You will actually turn into a zombie faster than someone that is bitten. So yeah, I could sit here and talk all day about my writing. So there's that one. And that's how it ultimately can. And the story that I'm telling right now, there's a reason why it's called The First. It is actually going. It deals with a sister and her younger brother. Her younger brother's like 6 years old. And I'll admit that I got this idea from the video game A Plague Tale. If you haven't played that game, basically we have two characters, an older sister and a little brother that are wandering around. Unknown to her, her little brother's infected, which later, not too long in the game, she learns that he is infected. The only difference to mine in that is that he kind of gets these unique fantasy-based powers, but my story is more about him changing, and he's not going to have any, special abilities or anything like that. He's going to change. He's going to ultimately, become basically the first zombie. That's the premise behind the story. So we're dealing with this girl. The reason why they run away is because there's these group of people. They believe we need to kill all the infected. If we kill all the infected, we can get rid of this apocalypse. And take note, at this time, there's no zombies. It's just a plague. So there's this group of people that show up at the house, and that leads them on their ultimate adventure, or lack of adventure, take your pick. Them surviving in the world, well, she's dealing with her little brother in this new world without her adult parents, so on and so forth. So it's kind of like a mixture. I got different ideas from different forms of media. And the reason being is because any writer does this. They see something they like. They're like, that's a good idea. How can I insert this into my own writing or, game, whatever the case may be? Because the creative realms go everywhere. And yeah, that's The First. I still just haven't figured out how it's going to end. Like, is she going to have to kill him? Is he going to kill her once he completely turns? I've even thought of another idea, but I don't want to say it in case I do it, because then it would kind of be a spoiler. The other two, the only reason why I mentioned is because they're not original ideas. So I think, I could go with that. As opposed to the one that I'm keeping a secret, I think is somewhat of an original idea. So if I do choose that idea, I want it to kind of be a surprise. So yeah, now I actually kind of tangent off from what I originally was talking about. Let's see. Well, I talked a little bit about Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild. So Dead Island 2. So I have played that. I've beaten it with one of the characters. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I always wanted a movie or a video game of someone having to go up against a group of killer clown cult at a big circus amusement park. Oh yeah. I'm kind of like, I don't know if you're referring to that actual video game, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. But that is one of the games I'm looking forward to. Now, it is going to be a live service game, so I'm kind of expecting it to have microtransactions in it. But I haven't really seen them announcing it in that fashion. And it's also, I don't think it's a free-to-play game. I think it's going to be a paid game. So hopefully they don't go down that route. I'm all for expansion packs, just not, yeah. And if it is a live service game, then it's like, I might check it out, but I probably wouldn't hang out very long in it. Oh, I thought there was a new comment. I probably wouldn't hang out very long in it. Which, when you look at Dead Island 2, you get introduced to, I think they call him a berserker. It's basically the butcher from Dead Island and Dead Island Riptide. He's got like pointy arms. His hands are missing. All right. And he's a clown in Dead Island 2. Which brings me to the next issue that I have with this, is that Dead Island 2 doesn't have unique bosses. They introduce you to their basic zombies by introducing you to the basic zombies, by playing them as a boss when they're not really a boss. They don't have any unique fighting or style, or they battle or fight in a different way than their regular parts found throughout the world. It's the same. In fact, they're pretty much just as easy to defeat as any other character out there, with the exception of the butcher-like clown that you run into. I did die a few times from that douchebag. But once I ran into them in the world, they kind of seemed to turn into a bit of a JJ. Like the fight or the battle wasn't as intense as the boss fight introduction, which I hate boss fight introductions. I think the game would have been better creating different variants of zombies that were solely bosses. I think that would have been better instead of the kind of the generic stuff that we got. The gore system is great. I enjoy that. The combat is, though repetitive, but every game objectively is repetitive. Would you say it's better than the first Dead Island? Well, I would say, I guess I'll say yes. And the only reason why is because of the gore system. In terms of combat, no, it's kind of roughly the same. In terms of boss fights, because those two games did have boss fights to a certain degree, but it was the same thing. They just introduced you to a common enemy that was going to be around the map, which I don't really like that. All right. That's kind of generic if you ask me. In fact, I think it's called the Suiciders from Dead Island and Riptide. The introduction to that was totally not in the realm of a boss fight. It's just a cutscene. Here's a new zombie type. I think that's better in context to the basic zombies we're introduced to, ones that are a little bit stronger than your normal ones. And I feel that the boss fights should have been unique boss fights and not the, here's a common enemy, we just put him in a wedding dress. Or we dressed him up like a clown. Or we made this zombie a known NPC that the other NPC characters are aware of. But you just meet them as a player as a zombie. It's probably the weakest part of Dead Island 2, is its lack of unique boss zombies. Which I would say is also something that the first game suffered from. Which, of course, because we're talking about Dead Island 2, what do I think about Dying Light 2? Dying Light 2 is far superior. So something most people don't know or may not know, if you actually watch the sun in Dying Light, it rises and it sets. It actually moves through the sky. Same with the moon. If you play Dying Light 2 and you were to watch it, the sun does this. Woo! Here we are. Oh, we're done. It doesn't even move. Like it gets cloudy where the sun would be, and then the sun just disappears. And when it goes to reappear, it becomes cloudy again. And the moon is also stationary. It pops in and out. So, yeah, objectively, I say Dying Light is a million times better than Dying Light 2 because it seems like they were more focused on some kind of game mechanics, the parkour, which, don't get me wrong, is good. And I think the map is also bigger, which I've seen other people that enjoy Dying Light 2 criticize that. They've also criticized the fact that, you know, they took the Dying Light out of Dying Light 2. It doesn't seem much of a threat in comparison to, like, you could run around at night, and I've done it in Dying Light 2. It's way easier to run around and do things in night than in Dying Light. Oh, yeah, it is. Which, fun fact, Tears of the Kingdom, the sun, it actually rises and sets. Older hardware and the developers of Dying Light 2 could not do what they did in their previous game or what a game on lesser hardware does. That even is for the I don't know if any of you have played the new Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild, but it has a blood moon. You can actually tell when the blood moon is happening if you're looking at the sky, because you'll see the red moon start to rise. And once it gets to its peak, that's when the cutscene plays that, hey, all of the bad guys are coming back that you killed. And then it will actually... it doesn't stay red. I don't know why they did that. I think I would have made it stay red, but it fades to its normal color after the cutscene, but then it continues to move through the sky. it's pretty sad when a Zelda game can do it. It's pretty sad when your first game can do it, but apparently, what is it? Deep Silver, I believe they're the one that did no, that's Dead Island 2. Techland, I believe is the ones that did Dying Light and Dying Light 2. Oh, music. What kind of music and music artists do I listen to? I grew up listening to, and this is because of my parents, country and oldies. The country came from my mom, the oldies from my dad. I mostly took after my dad. So my radio station is usually on a classic radio station that plays like Beach Boys and nobody important. Beach Boys and other people within that generation, basically anywhere from the early 90s to, the 70s, some of the 60s. And when it comes to country, I'm not a big fan of modern day country. I think it has too much of a pop music style to it. I don't really care for it. I'm not saying there isn't a ton. There is some good stuff, but I find myself listening to mostly older country. In fact, I don't even really listen to the radio station when it comes to country because they don't really have a radio station that plays older country. Like usually when I'm at work, I have like Pandora or Amazon Music playing like country music from the 90s. So, yeah, there is that. And 4:15, an hour. I'm supposed to apparently go pick up buns. Oh. I don't know if anybody has any money unless they expect me to buy them. Classic stuff. Nobody's prepared. I wasn't prepared for this live stream today, and apparently nobody's prepared for hamburgers or hot dogs. Let's see. I don't know what else we could talk about. I mean, it is gaming. Let's see. Is there any other games that I have played that have come out? So we got Dead Island 2. What some other zombie games you like? Oh, well, my first introduction to zombie games in general was Dead Island series. I did play that State of Decay for the Xbox. I even have it on Steam. But I haven't played it as long as I've played other zombie games. And I think it's just because the scope of that game is kind of similar. It's more of a survival game. So it's not really like that if there is a story, that it's a really meaningful story. But I'm like, it's okay. I think it's kind of overhyped if you ask me. State of Decay. And I haven't even picked up State of Decay 2 because I haven't played State of Decay that much. So I don't really see a point in wasting money on it. And then let's see, there's Days Gone. I started to play that. I have enjoyed it. I just been playing other games and haven't went back to it. So there's that one. That's not too bad of a game. I have my own visions, of course, for a zombie game, but that's only because like one of the biggest problems I see with zombie games is that they try to focus on, humanity's bad or the zombies, which is apparently what Dead Island 2 is attempting to go for, which isn't a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. All right. It's definitely better than, guess what? Humans are pretty fucked up in the apocalypse. But I would like a zombie game that is more character driven, like how I envision a zombie game. If I was to develop a game, there would be multiple characters. Some of them would be locked. All right. Not behind a paywall. Fuck that bullshit. All right. Just like basically the idea is that it would be somewhat either an open world, but not very big, or it would be like sections, kind of like Dead Island 2. And the idea is that you would unlock characters by playing a character and running into that character. And it would be a character-driven story rather than a plot-driven story. So it's these characters surviving in the zombie apocalypse, or them surviving when it just started, and they all have their own motivations and goals in that particular apocalypse. Like, look at it this way. When you look at a character like the governor from The Walking Dead, what led him down his path? That's the kind of story I would put in a video game. So it just wouldn't be people surviving or good people. It'd be like, you get to play as the dick. All right. This guy is a total douchebag. He's an asshole. All right. You get to play that particular character. In fact, that's what I've, like when it comes to Harry Potter, because I came up with this idea one day. I was listening to the audiobooks of Harry Potter. And it made me want to binge watch the movies. So I started binge watching the movies. And then I sat there and I was like, could you imagine if instead of telling Harry Potter's story, she told the story of Voldemort from his perspective? So I gave that idea to some of my diehard Harry Potter friends, because I don't consider myself a diehard Harry Potter fan. I enjoy the books and the movies. They're okay. Most of the games suck, except for the newer one. That's all right. Definitely a better Harry Potter game than some of the past stuff. And they thought the idea was amazing. I mean, granted, you have to understand, you're telling the same story, but what's different is you're getting it from the perspective of the villain. And we're not just talking like as an adult. What made him motivate him as a kid, traveling all the way through that to get to the point where he is? Like when Harry Potter, did that final cast and Voldemort's going to die. What was he thinking? This is the kind of thinking I have as a writer. And, this is why one of the most common questions is, where do you get your ideas from as a writer? They come from everywhere. From me, they come from video games. They come from movies. They come from random conversations I overhear in the public, because I sit there and I think that's a good point. I'm going to see if I could somehow incorporate that into, not necessarily make it about the story, but just I'm going to add that to a story, make it a conversation kind of thing. So even the idea of getting ideas, sometimes writers only get part of an idea for a greater idea. Man, this stream is kind of went everywhere. I guess that's a good thing, right? I've done some voice work for an online friend video game. Not sure when it'll be done, but maybe we could try linking up for a game project. There was a time I was real big into hobby game making. Back in the day, I bought Game Maker 4. All right. That was before it was owned by Yo-Yo Games, I believe is what the company is called, because the original creator, he like created the company and then he sold it. I don't remember the history. So yeah, I bought Game Maker when it was Game Maker version 4. I even actually entered a contest. I made a fan game for Mario called Super Mario Time Warp. And the idea behind it was that you play as Mario, obviously. Bowser decides that because Bowser's always the villain, so he's got to be the villain. Basically, he's going to do some stuff in the past. He screws shit up, and all of the different timelines start to converge and merge. So the Mario you play as would basically get different power-ups from these different time periods. And because it was a computer game and I was making a 2D game, sometimes the levels would be isometric to kind of give that Super Mario 64 or Super Mario Sunshine feel to it. But I had like 2D version power-ups that you would found in like Mario 64. And I actually won, because this was like in high school. I won a PlayStation 2 for doing that contest. I don't even know what happened to the game, because I was kind of a young adult, still early teens. So I didn't keep anything that I created. I didn't do that even as a writer. I have a lot of stories that I wrote in a notepad and they're all lost because that's probably the one thing I would tell myself if I could go back in time. Keep better track of the stuff I've created. Digital or physical, and that kind of sense. And then after Game Maker, I got real big into the RPG Maker series. Ironically, I never made anything in any of those engines. I mostly joined communities online and would help other people out because I spent so much time screwing around in these systems that I knew the basics of it, so I could help other people when they had questions about it. but I never actually made a game myself, other than the one I entered a contest for to win a PlayStation 2. Because it had like come out, I think it had been out for, no, it was going to come out because the contest was before it was supposed to come out, and we would get it like, I think a week or two after the console had been released. Good times. I don't do much game making hobbying game making. I mean, I have all the extra software on Steam. I did rebuy it, legitimate copies, because when RPG Maker XP came out, they did not have a US version, so you had to get the Pulsley Knights edition, which was a illegal translated copy of the game, or the engine, I should say. Same with RPG Maker 2003, which is the one I also used. They finally actually released an official version of that, official translation, and I actually bought it, even though I haven't done anything in it yet. Story of my life. Spending money and never doing anything. What's your opinion on hack and slash games like Devil May Cry and Dynasty Warriors? Never played a Devil May Cry. I did play one of the Dynasty Warriors games on the PlayStation 2, I believe, and I really enjoyed the shit out of it. I played it a lot. I don't remember which one it was, though, because I think there was a few releases on it. I obviously don't do anything with it today because microtransactions. It is infested with it. In fact, there was a kind of like a spinoff they did with the Gundam series, because I like Gundam. My first introduction to Gundam was a series on, I think it was the Cartoon Network, called G Gundam. It wasn't very long. I think there's like only 50 episodes. It might be even less than that, 40 or 45. But that was my first introduction to the whole Gundam mech anime, which I enjoyed the shit out of that. That's actually my favorite Gundam series, is G Gundam. And there, basically what the point I'm getting to is that there was a Dynasty Warriors version with Gundams in it, and I thought about getting it, but then unfortunately it had microtransactions in it as well. So yeah, depressing. But I've never played any of the Devil May Cry games. That's very true, especially Dynasty Warriors 9. They did 3 season passes on top of having a broken ass game at launch. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. That's one of the biggest problems within modern day gaming is, broken ass games. And it baffles my mind when gamers defend such releases. It's like, you're the reason why they continue to release broken ass games. Because you're like, it's cool. Fix it later, bro. Which I still die. I will die on a stand that. Oh, coffee. My mustache is way too thick. I need to fucking shave it. It's like hanging over my upper lip, and it actually does annoy me for that. I usually trim it down, but this is the only fucking thing I can grow, ladies and gentlemen. If you notice my scruffiness right here, I can never grow a beard, but neither can my dad. So my dad is just scruffy like me. I can definitely grow a fucking mustache, though. Could you tell the story of how you got your mind changed about DLC? I remember you mentioning it in 1 or 2 videos. Well, it's kind of evolved over time. All right. So back in the day, I did purchase microtransactions, DLC. In fact, I think it started in the 360 PS3 era, obviously. There was usually those download codes. I would use those all the time. Even after I created Gamer Rant, they would come in the thing and I would use them. And I just never really, on a conscious or unconscious level, acknowledge the fact that this is basically the same thing. All right. And this is me supporting the very thing I don't like. And eventually at one point, years later, I'll be like, oh, yeah, that's kind of bad. But it all started with Mortal Kombat 9. Because I purchased not all the characters, because they weren't all available at the time. But my plan was to purchase all the characters, even the non-Mortal Kombat characters. But I purchased Scarlet, the classic skin costume that they had. And it was a friend that, I was telling him about the game, talking about the game, how great it was. I'm playing as this new character, Scarlet, and he wasn't happy. He basically told me how I was a dumbass for purchasing a brand new character, that objectively should be in the game already. So that's when it started to where I kind of became a little bit more, cautious, but still not completely, because I would still use those codes that came in the game. Whether that was a pre-order bonus, like on a receipt, I would use that as well. Or just the day one edition. Like Dragon Quest Builders, the first game came with one. It was a day one edition. It had one in there. You could get like a slime stack or something like that. So I inputted it. It wasn't until really truly sitting there thinking about it, and it's like, well, those are by definition microtransactions. And it's kind of ironic because later on I would mention this in older videos. I don't think any of them are on this channel, but how there's no difference between free DLC microtransactions and paid DLC and microtransactions. So that was me realizing that I was being a hypocrite, because, I'm taking these things that are basically free, and I've talked about how free DLC is a bad thing, and here I am using these things. And, it's the mistakes that we all make. And I think the biggest thing about mistakes is owning up to them when it comes to them. And that's another irony from this, is that there have been plenty of people where during any video game controversy, they're not as big on YouTube, but you'll see someone create a video talking about like, oh, there's a lot of people bitching about the microtransactions in, I'm trying to think of a game. I'm just going to use Evil Dead as an example. That's probably not one that had one, but I'm just going to use that game as an example. We're going to pretend it has microtransactions in it. If it does, then all right, it fits. People bitching about the microtransactions in Evil Dead, and yet they're still going to buy them. And the reality of that is they don't necessarily have to buy them. They could just use the code if such a code came with the game, and that would be the same hypocrisy. And that's something that, I actually ended up seeing within myself, that, yeah, let's see. Very true. I remember you mentioning that in your old video about Final Fantasy 15 Season Pass, the free DLC. Yep. And I actually just saw an announcement. I might have hit myself. It's actually not just recently. It probably was 4 or 5 months ago. There was an article that came out saying that Final Fantasy VII, the remake, is officially only going to have 3 games in it. And I was like, oh, shit. God damn it. And the only reason why I say that is because in many of the videos that I ranted about them milking it, I was like, if this game only has 3 games, I will fucking buy it. I'm like, oh, shit. Now it's like, okay, do I have to go with my word and buy it? Or do I have to go with my new word because it has microtransactions in it and be like, nah, I'm not doing it. Oh, man. Weighing the options. Because in one stance, I told people, hey, you know what? I will be like, if this game does not milk it and go beyond 3 games, I will do everyone a favor and I will buy it. Just as like, okay, you were right, I was wrong. But we know that it has microtransactions in it. All right. So it's like, now I've kind of like, oh, who knows what I'm going to do when it finally does happen. I haven't bought any of them. But we'll see what happens when the third one comes out. Whether or not I keep my word or I just go with, nah, it has microtransactions. I can't do that. An hour and, well, technically not an hour and 25 minutes, because there was literally, I was waiting for like maybe 10, 15 minutes before somebody actually came to the live stream and stayed in it. And then I sat there and talked for almost 30 minutes in complete silence. I wonder if they could like read lips. They're like, his mic's not working, but I know what he's saying. I can read lips. That still cracks me up, Jack. I shit you not. I talked for 20, 30 minutes about Breath of the Wild and Dead Island 2. And you're the first person that was like, I can't hear you, bro. Oh, man. The next live stream I do, I'm going to actually try to do like, we'll be able to look up controversies, current controversies, old controversies. It's kind of funny. And ironically, I actually labeled this as my first live stream originally. But then when I was looking at my history, because the live stream is a different tab, apparently I did a No Man's Sky live stream. It was like an hour and something many minutes. None of this was behind me. There was a green screen. So that means that my desk had to be on that side. And because that's where the green screen would go, because this is a window and that's a wall. So that would make it easier for me to hang the green screen up. But yeah. So yeah. Probably not going to go for an hour or an hour and 30 minutes just because apparently I was informed I do have to go to the store. And I don't like confrontation with my roommates. Not that it really matter. I'll be like, dude, you're the one making dinner. You should have fucking thought of that in the first place. Because when I make dinner, I make sure I buy all the shit I need. So let's see. What time is it? 4:35. I got a little bit of time. I'll probably end the stream at like 4:50. All right. And then after that, I'm going to try to edit out the giant chunk of uselessness of the live stream. Because I did Google it. And Google says that I can edit the live stream when it's done to get rid of stuff at the beginning and the end that I may not want. Such as me waiting 15 minutes for somebody to show up. And then, of course, you know, the whole mic issue. So let me see. Is there anything, other games that I have played that are relatively new? I mean, there is the new Plague Tale, the sequel to that, but I haven't really dove into it. I enjoyed the Plague Tale games. They do have technically microtransactions in itself, but they're technically free, but they're also paid. It's one of those things like $1 something, which that's not an excuse. Don't get me wrong. All right. But it's one of those games that I bought before I went on that stance. And when I sit here and I think in context that, you know, when I say I'm not going to buy any games that have microtransactions in it, I think I'm going to go out there and say a lot of abusive microtransactions. Otherwise, there's a decent amount of games that I will ultimately miss out, because we could sit here and die on a hill every day that none of us are buying any games with any microtransactions whatsoever, but that's not going to change anything from the small amount of people that we're doing. So, you know, and at the end of the day, you look at like, it's I think it's Plague Tale Requiem. I think that's what it is. It's a Plague Tale Requiem. I think that's what it's called. That's the second one. Because the first one is a Plague Tale. That's right. I was confusing the two. So the only microtransaction it has, which is really useless too, it's just like different costume and a shield, a family crest, as they call it, from back in medieval times. And that's the only thing. I will say that's completely fucking stupid, because if you why not just make it free? There was objectively no reason to make people pay for such a ridiculous thing. Oh yeah, you know, like, you know, I own No Man's Sky, and it doesn't really have real microtransaction in it because they're all technically updates. All right, but I broke my original game, and I was like, this game's garbage. I'm not playing it. But then I was given No Man's Sky as a gift, and that's the same thing. All right. I don't own it anymore, but I did own Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which I got as a Christmas gift. But that came to a point where I just needed money. And normally I don't sell video games, even games I don't like, when they're given to me as a gift. But this was one where I'm like, you know what? I need money. So I'm going to sell this, and their gift is going to be money to me rather than this microtransaction infested game. So I get it, you know. I have no interest in any of the Assassin's Creed games that are coming out. The only way I would honestly pick one up is if there was no microtransactions in it. But this is Assassin's Creed. They've had it in just about every release. So, yeah. That also iterates that I don't have a problem rebuying a game I used to own as well. So, for example, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It has microtransactions and a microtransaction store. But I bought that game before I was like, I'm not going to support that bullshit with and of itself. So if I were to sell that game because I need money, then yes, I would go rebuy it because that was a game I went on that stance before I made that statement. The only iteration is not to support the microtransactions, which is why I got a completely new PlayStation and Microsoft account. I was like, you know what? I need to just redo this because there's too much bullshit on this account. And that's the idea. None of those slips, no buying microtransactions from past games. It's going to be fresh start. The only one I didn't change was Steam. I am still Gamer Rant on Steam because I've never bought any fucking microtransactions for any game on Steam. In fact, that's how you can find me on any of the systems. I'm Gamer Rant on Steam. And it took me forever to figure out, this is going to be pretty cliche, I ain't going to lie, but I am the RPG Elden Lord on PlayStation and Xbox. Nintendo Switch is still Gamer Rant as well. My name's Gamer Rant on the Nintendo Switch as well, because I haven't purchased any microtransactions or inputted any pre-order bonus codes or any bullshit like that with the Nintendo either, which I don't really know why I did that. It's kind of weird how, like, I did that for PlayStation, mostly PlayStation, because that's a majority of the games that are multi-platform that I buy. I rarely did it for Xbox, and I didn't do it at all for Steam or Nintendo. I'm really sure why I did that, but hey, beats the fuck out of me. But then again, Nintendo, they don't have a lot of microtransactions. They do exist, and they do have day one updates. Fun fact, I was actually doing a video. I was recording a video about Tears of the Kingdom, and it was coming to Nintendo's defense, mind you, all right? And in that video, I made the claim that Nintendo does not have day one updates for their first party games. I recorded the whole video. I was in the process of uploading it, all right? And then I just kind of randomly, while it was uploading, I went to my Nintendo Switch. I was like, I'm going to wait for it to get done. And I turned it on, and it was right there. Tears of the Kingdom updated. I'm like, oh, fuck. Oh, Nintendo. I was all, well, at least you showed me you're a bullshit liar before I uploaded my video completely. So I went over, I was like, all right, this video is canceled because I am incorrect in it. Coming to Nintendo's defense, and they still do day one updates like every other pointless developer and console manufacturer. You know, that's the one thing I wish I had. I wish I had money because I would start my own game development company. And the reason being is we would do everything the complete opposite of what everyone else does. No day one updates. You just put the game in, you get to play. No microtransactions, no loot boxes. We would do expansion packs because I don't consider expansion packs. I don't even put them in the same boat as DLC. I think that's insulting. Objectively insulting. Because most people need to understand that, yes, by technical standards, an expansion pack is technically downloadable content. But the caveat to that is, so is a movie, so is music, so is computer software. There's a tons of stuff that fit into the acronym of DLC. What most people fail to realize is that the video game industry took that acronym and they abused the shit out of it. And expansion packs existed before video games started to use the DLC term. And yeah, that's why I don't refer to expansion packs as season passes or DLC. I think it's an insult to real honest expansion packs that expand upon the story, the characters, game mechanics, and the art itself. Let's see. I agree. Like, I can't lie. I still played Resident Evil. Oh, wait, I already read that. I'd honestly boycott if more would boycott. That's true. You know, I could sit here and die on a horse talking about how day one updates are bullshit, but then I would not be playing any fucking game. And unfortunately, out of all the evils that have come about from modern day gaming, I would say I don't like it. I don't necessarily accept it, but yeah, I am stuck with it. As opposed to something like microtransactions, it's like technically all of that could be true for the same concept of day one updates. You'll have to apologize. I constantly am not looking at the camera. It's a bad habit of mine. I do it when I'm recording. I don't know if you've ever noticed watching my recorded videos. I'll be like this. It's because I don't know why, but I'm looking at my monitor rather than the camera. Not to mention when I first started this stream, all right, I had to delete it because my camera was upside down. I'm like, what the fuck? I was literally upside down. Everything you see was in reverse and upside down. And I have no idea why the system did that. Oh, man. Oh, Jesus criminy. But yeah. Okay, so let's see. That would be awesome. I'd support it. I'm actually lost now because I have a tendency to tangent off things. So you're probably referring to something I mentioned. But whatever that thought was is no longer in my brain. Oh, coffee. Ooh, fun fact, I had physical therapy today, or I was supposed to have physical therapy today. The reason why you're seeing a good majority of videos, and I don't want to make this as like some kind of excuse for why there's so many videos and never a lot of videos beforehand, is that because I got injured at work. I sprained my, the doctor said I sprained my ankle. But when I went to my physical therapy, the doctor was like, I don't think you sprained your ankle. She's all, I think you fractured a bone. She's all, because everything you're describing to me, because I bruised the shit out of my foot. It like, this is my, let's see, I got to make sure I'm oriented right. This is my right foot. This is actually my left hand. The whole side right here was bruised all the way down the side. It was bruised right above where the toes are. And then it was randomly bruised on this side of the ankle. And the doctor thought that was weird because it was not the doctor, the physical therapist thought it was weird that it was bruised on the other side. She's all, because you don't see that in what we call a normal sprain. She's all, everything you're talking about, because I also don't have a complete motion. It's off by 20 degrees. I cannot move it up or down by 20 degrees as opposed to my other one. And she was like, I think you actually fractured a bone. I was like, well, shit. But that's why you've been seeing consecutive videos, is because I'm kind of doing nothing every day except playing video games. And I've actually been doing this since like March 16th, which I don't know when I started, but yeah, I could have definitely started this channel a little more active a long time ago. But I don't want any of you to think that when I start working again, that I'm going to become less active. The idea behind this is that I just kind of get bored constantly complaining about the video game industry. And I think anyone would, all right? Especially when you look at my history. I did it for an entire year. Every day I uploaded videos. There I am again, looking at the goddamn monitor. It's a bad habit. I'm never going to break it. I know it. Every day I'd upload videos and I just got burnt out and I left. I even deleted my channel. That's how I left. And in fact, the first video I uploaded under the new channel name, the update video, someone actually commented. Their comment's no longer there. I don't know if they deleted it, but it's no longer there. They were like, well, yeah, this guy pops in every now and then he's gone for a year, and then he pops back up. And I was like, all right, I understand where you're coming from. But, fun fact, I've never actually left for a year. At most 8 months. All right. And I don't always say when I reappear that, I want to talk about retro gaming. That's just something I mentioned in a previous video. And the biggest caveat to this is that talking so much about the negative aspects of gaming, it can become mundane, and you start to lose a greater interest in the video game industry and the positive sides that it does have. So that's why I wanted to create, when I rebranded the channel, because I was also thinking about doing a writing channel, talk about my writing, that kind of thing, and maybe dive into other controversial topics such as film and industry. And then I sat there and I thought, well, I could technically do that on the channel that I have now. I just make an update video and be like, hey, this is what's going to happen. If you don't like the new content that's coming, feel free to unsubscribe. I just haven't done a non-game controversial thing yet. A game collection. Yeah. It's not very big. Some of them are actually in storage. In fact, some of them I couldn't even find. I wanted to play Final Fantasy X on the PlayStation 2. And I couldn't find my fucking game anywhere. I'm like, God damn it. I think I'm going to have to rebuy that motherfucker. And it's like 60, 80 bucks now. I'm like, oh, Jesus criminy. But I guess that's better than losing my Dragon Quest 8 for the PlayStation 2. Woo! Dragon Quest games hold their value, even older. Like, you try to buy a Dragon Quest game on the 3DS. Good fucking luck. I'm not saying you can't find them, but you're going to be forking over some cash, bro. Big cash. Okay, I'm actually going to go until 5 minutes, and then I actually have to end the stream. That way I can go to the store real quick and apparently buy some hot dog buns, because people are unprepared. It'd be cool. Oh yeah, I already read that. Yeah, I think I did that. I might have done it, or maybe I did it in a different channel. Ironically, you know, my first YouTube channel wasn't even Gamer Rant. It was actually an RPG channel, which ironically is what this channel used to be. I was like, well, I want to redo Gamer Rant. Well, I already have these like 100 subscribers that were a part of this RPG channel. Let's force them to go to Gamer Rant. I also had an anime channel at one point. I only got like about 100, maybe 120 subscribers, but I wasn't very active, because another problem that I have is I would try to create multiple channels. So having multiple channels and trying to upload a video, because at the time I was uploading videos every day, is, yeah, especially me. I don't write transcripts and scripts out for my videos, which I probably should. It would make more sense why I'm looking at my monitor rather than the goddamn camera, as I just caught myself doing again. Oh, man. I don't even know why I look at the monitor. It's not like I have to, am I in frame? Am I out of frame? No, I'm in the fucking center. The only time I really need to look at it is if like, hey, because I need to make sure this is in frame. Not that I'm showing you my mug, but you get, it's an example. But yeah, I was thinking about doing some unboxings. Like, there's this thing right here. I mean, it's already opened. This Neo no Kuni right here. I did a video on that controversy back in the day, so I could probably revisit that controversy by doing an unboxing of that collector's edition, because there was massive controversy surrounding that collector's edition. There was a company on eBay that bought like 300 of them, and the company ended up having to cancel other people's pre-orders because they didn't put a limit on how many you could buy. I think I remember you saying a while back you were going to do a YouTube channel about dumb things people say, or something to do with politics. Oh yeah, I have all kinds of ideas. I even had an atheist channel at one time, which ironically I was running at the same time as the original Gamer Rant, and I was actually getting way more subscribers on that channel than Gamer Rant. Apparently there's a lot of people on the internet that don't believe in God. And yes, I'm still an agnostic atheist. I don't have a personal belief in any deity. In fact, if you believe in God, the only difference between me and you is I believe in less. I got to make sure I word this correctly. I don't, but see, how is that fucking phrased? I believe in less than one God than you. I think that's how it would go. All right. So if you believe in a God, for example, a Christian, they believe in the Christian God. Well, any other God out there, they don't believe in. It's fake, it's fantasy, it's fiction, yada yada yada. Same with a Muslim, Jehovah, etc., etc., etc. The only difference between me and other atheists is we just believe in one less God. You believe in one, we believe in none. And the irony from this is that the reason why I stopped doing my atheist channel is because I started to act like other atheist YouTubers. And that's not something I wanted to do. Because in my everyday life, I run into people that are religious all the time. I have Jehovah, I have Muslim, I have Christian friends, and none of them give two shits that I'm an atheist. They've even invited me to events that take place at their church or their mausoleum, and I go there. And a good amount of the people that are, part of that congregation are aware that I'm not a believer. I am merely there because I am this individual's friend, and I respect at least their decision or their religion. All right. And I think that's one of the biggest differences when I was doing my atheist channel, is that I was starting to become kind of a jerk, like most of the atheists online. And that's why I gave that channel up, because I'm not a jerk. And my friends that are religious are not jerks to me. And I was basically feeding into the wrong dynamic on that side of YouTube. All right. Because not every atheist on YouTube is a douchebag, but there are some that are pretty douchey. And hopefully nobody unsubscribes because I just admitted that I'm an agnostic atheist. We can all have differences in beliefs. All right. That's just the reality of it. I'm not here to debate you on whether religion or God is real or not. In fact, my official stance on it is that I don't have a personal belief in God, but I don't claim to have evidence that it's not possible that a divine creator exists. Because that's one of the most common questions atheists get. What happens when you're standing in front of the maker when you're dead, bro? It's like, well, honestly, I don't think it would be as bad as you claim it to be. All right. God, specific to the Christian God loves everybody, but then everyone is still damned from being born. That makes no sense objectively. And if God is real and I'm standing before him, number one, he's not going to have to ask me questions, because I don't know anyone. My parents were all, oh, you got a check mark every time you did a bad thing. Is that if a deity does exist and they're supposedly all knowing and all that stuff, when I'm standing before them, they're going to know if I'm truly sorry for anything that they deem unmoral. And I don't think they would be on such a high horse that like, oh, you didn't believe in me, you going to hell. That is such a human barbaric way of thinking. Like the concept of hell had to be created by a person. Because what supposed wise, knowledgeable deity would create such a thing? That makes no sense. So that's how I iterate it. Like if I find out that God is real, then I'm pretty confident I would still go to heaven, or whatever they would call it at that time, because the biggest problem with most religions is it is the religion that paints their God in an unmoral stance, in an unmoral light. And in fact, fun fact, if you actually read the Holy Bible, King James Version, take your pick, God has killed more innocent people than the devil himself. The devil doesn't even hit the double digits, ladies and gentlemen. And that's an objective fact from the Bible. Anyway, I don't want to talk too much about religion because this ain't a religious channel. All right, let me see. You're not a jerk, but there are a lot of religious Oh, yeah, there's plenty of religious douchebags on the internet. I think that's why you end up with so many atheist douchebags, is because they end up dealing with a lot of religious douchebags. As opposed to my everyday life, none of them try to convert me. We hang out. We get along fine. There's even one. He loves debating religion. He's a Jehovah, but he loves studying other religions. And I have mentioned to him plenty of things that I've talked about my own personal beliefs and lack thereof. And he's very understanding of it. He doesn't try to demean me. He doesn't try to prove me wrong or anything like that. All right. Yeah. And how it having multiple channels. Oh, yeah, it is. It gets crazy, especially if you're trying to upload videos every day. Don't do that, especially if you're not making money. I was not making money when I first started Gamer Rant. I was literally uploading videos every day. And I think I started talking about this and then I got sidetracked. I don't write transcripts or anything like that. I just look at the camera and start talking. And I'll re-record a video multiple times. Usually because I lose my train of thought and I'm like, fuck. Or I'll do something in the video and be like, no, that's going to make me look like a fucking douchebag. Do you think Mortal Kombat is a dead franchise? Well, depends on how we look at it. Is it on an objective level a dead franchise? No. Because there are plenty of people excited about Mortal Kombat 1. Is it dead to me because of the microtransactions? Yes. All right. According to my clock, I got like a minute left. Any questions? Because then I got to go get some hot dog buns. Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe was the last time Mortal Kombat didn't have DLC or microtransactions, I think. I actually own that game, so I actually could look at that. Because my sister owned it. And I gave her my PlayStation 4 when I got my PlayStation 5 because it plays PlayStation 4 games, so I didn't need it. Though there is this collector's edition PS4 that I wouldn't mind getting. It's the same color as an original PlayStation. Same with the controller, you know, that gray look. I saw one $1,000 in a used bookstore of all places. And I was like, oh, if I had $1,000, I totally would waste it on that console. But anyway, point being is that when I gave her my PS4, so she gave me her PS3, and then I gave it to we gave it to our uncle because he wanted to play Blu-ray players, and his Blu-ray player stopped working. But she gave me all her PS3 games that she had as well. That included Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe. Why modern day gamers have become spineless cowards these days? Who knows? You know, you can actually go to my Mortal Kombat video, the one where I changed the thumbnail. It said that Mortal Kombat is garbage. I changed it to Mortal Kombat has microtransactions because it was kind of a clickbait thumbnail within of itself. But there's a few people that have commented they don't really agree with me. All right, obviously. All right. And I don't know if, actually, yeah, I think I can do that. You're not going to be able to see it because I'm not doing a screen recording. But let me see if I can find one of these comments. Oh, yeah, somebody replied on that Mortal Kombat video. Don't worry, I'll buy 2,500 dragon crystals and think of you. So he's basically like, I'm going to buy microtransactions, the in-game currency, and I'll be thinking of your dumbass, motherfucker. There's also been a couple of people that have commented on that video. I and other people have commented to them. In fact, Jackal Goldkick replied to one of them, and they deleted their comment. And we weren't even rude to these individuals. We were just like, yo, bro, here's the facts. And it's almost like they looked at it, read it, and like, yep, brain fart, deleting comment. So, yeah, I always expect to get some kind of flack. It's usually a minority of people. Like, let me see. Currently, let me go to the studio real quick. My content. Let's see. Yeah, so that Mortal Kombat video, the one where I'm talking about the collector's edition, it currently is sitting at 24 likes and 10 dislikes. Has 27 comments. Some of those are obviously mine because I've been replying to people. There's also missing comments because people, for whatever reason, decided to delete their comment. I don't know why. What started microtransactions in gaming? Well, technically, by definition, all DLC is a microtransaction. And by definition, all microtransactions are DLC. So technically, when DLC first started back in the day and people, like, it was announced and people thought, like myself, it was going to be the equivalent of a PC expansion pack, but on the home consoles. And it turns out it was just a bunch of micro stuff. Because in the early lifespan of DLC, the word microtransaction hadn't really been thought of in the gaming community at that time. You may have heard later on micro DLC, but microtransactions wasn't a thing until a little bit later in the controversy surrounding Day One Edition, so on and such forth. Which was another caveat. You know, that's when gamers also complained about Day One updates, but then developers never did anything because gamers really didn't stand their ground to do anything. So here we are. Now every game has Day One updates. So what started microtransactions is pretty much the announcement of DLC in general, because it was the complete opposite of what anyone wanted. And like I said, by definition, all microtransactions are DLC, and all DLC is a microtransaction, with the exception of an expansion pack. Let's not put that in either of those categories, because that's an insult to expansion packs. Because they actually expand upon the characters, the story, and the gameplay. They may not actually hit on all three of those aspects. I think there was an expansion pack for Skyrim, which was mostly like a building thing. So obviously it didn't add any story to the game, but it did add a mechanic and a little bit more to the world itself. Okay, I think I'm going to end the video right here because it's now 5:05, and last thing I want is getting an argument with people because I didn't go to the store to get some hot dog buns. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video in some fashion or form. I think I'll just go the last 5 minutes. So 5:10, we'll just cut it out. Anyone got any last minute questions? Otherwise, I'm going to end it. I'm out of coffee. All right. Well, I don't see anything appearing in the chat. So I think we've all decided. Have a good day. I guess I'll give it a few more minutes. Do you like modern day movies? Depends on the movie. I like the John Wick films. And granted, we could sit here and say that they're kind of milking it, but they're not really milking it on the level of like Fast and the Furious, you know? And I think the difference between that is I find John Wick far more entertaining than Fast and the Furious. Because Fast and the Furious seems like they're running out of ideas and they're just putting a lot of ridiculous shit in it. Rocket car. Like, okay, whatever. And then that rocket car is going to go through the air and perfectly land on all four wheels. Yeah. Okay. That's a Hollywood thing. And, you know, we could sit here and say, well, John Wick has its own Hollywood stuff. Yeah, and you're right. But I just find the action, the lack of what could be considered not real in John Wick to be entertaining, because the film is entertaining. Not to mention that in an interview, Keanu Reeves says that he's not currently interested in doing another John Wick movie at this time. So I'm like, I don't mind a number 4 if they do a number 4, but I don't think it's needed. I think it's fine where it's at. If they want to do some spin-offs, I forget the name of the character, but in the latest John Wick film, it's an Asian guy. He's played in the Ip Man. It's IP, not to be confused with a TV series called IP, completely different thing. I believe it's pronounced Ip Man. There's like a quadrilogy. He's the main character that plays Ip. I don't remember the actor's name. I think it's like, Don. I don't know. You think I would at least remember his first name? It's so fucking easy. If they did a spin-off of that character for the John Wick series, I'd totally be fine with that. Let's see. The new Halloween movie, garbage. Fucking garbage. garbage. Let's see what else is there. I've kind of lost interest in a lot of the Marvel films. Like I went and I saw Eternal. Eh. I went and saw that. What was it? Oh yeah, the newest Doctor Strange. I was like, that objectively should have been Wanda's movie because it seems to focus more on her rather than Doctor Strange. So I think Doctor Strange should have gotten his own film. Not to mention, I did not watch the series to Wanda on Disney Plus, but I did hear that it was quite the fucking joke. That basically the TV show paints her as basically a bad person. And then everybody is praising her at the end. It's like, nah, that doesn't make sense. Scream 5 and Scream 6 sucked. I've only seen like one or two of those. I was actually I remember seeing the ads for that running around the same time as one of the new Halloween movies. And I was like, oh, that's cool. They brought some of the old characters back. But I was like, doesn't really interest me. And I think that's another thing is that, it really comes down to what are they doing with it? There's a reason why I'm not going to see the live action films for Disney. It's not even because of the actor or actresses being this color, that color, purple, black, white, whatever. I don't really care. It's because the animateds are way better. They're attempting to tell a story that is better suited for the animation because their only option for live action is CGI. There's a reason why they were called out on Lion King being labeled as a live action. No, it's objectively an animated film because it's CGI. All right, gamers. Hope you enjoyed this live stream in some fashion or form. It is 5:10. I am going to end it right now. Hope you enjoyed it in some fashion or form. I'll see you on the next video. And I'm actually still, as of the 24th, because that's when I go back to the doctors to see if I can go back to work. So I'll probably do another live stream this weekend at some point too. You'll probably see it pop up. I'm going to actually try and get OBS so I can do screen recordings. We can read some articles, that kind of thing. All right. So I'll see you all later. Thanks for showing up. Do.